Well, the New Flesh concept is not something that I think very much about, I have to say. It's something that belonged to one film, and although the fact that it had become a key to some people to unlock some secrets from the other films is fine, that's a critical thing. But creatively, I don't think in terms of the New Flesh concept, I have to say. But Painkillers is an original script that I wrote some years ago, and I'm now doing a rewrite of the script with the hope that in the next year or so I'll get to make this film. Orlan is really, at one point, the script is about performance artists in the future. And so I was interested in various real performance artists, and Orlan is one of them that I used as a model for some of the characters in the film. But really that's the only involvement that she has, really, as a kind of inspiration for me. Well, you see, there's a confusion between technology and art and the creative impulse. To me, technology is just a tool, in terms of my art, that is, to achieve some kind of vision on film. So I don't really think in terms of, now I must use this new technology. That's not where the excitement for me is. When I come on the film set, every time, I only end up making a film maybe once every 3 or 4 years. Every time I come on the film set, the technology has changed quite a lot. But that doesn't bother me, and it really is not, it's just, these are the tools that you have to make the film. Sometimes there are new ones, sometimes they're just different, sometimes it's the same old one. So for me, the technology of, say, CGI is no different than costume, acting, makeup, which lens you use, what lighting you use. These are all just tools, and I would use CGI if I needed it for a specific shot. The excitement for me, the inspiration, is artistic, it's philosophical, it's not technological. That doesn't mean that I'm not excited by technology. I am, and it doesn't mean that I don't see that there are connections between technology and new evolving art forms. And I have been very excited at times by the potential of the internet for artistic expression. But there are some big major glitches and problems which many people have discovered, and not the .com crash is one of them. The fact that it's very difficult to figure out how to make money out of the internet, and yet people really feel they can't live without the internet. I mean, and I think it's true. In a very short number of years, the internet has become an essential part of modern life. At the same time, it doesn't seem to be a place yet for a really full, flowing, easy-flowing kind of artistic expression. A lot of that is technological. A lot of the problem is bandwidth and a lot of boring things like that. And it also has strangely to do with the attitude that you have. I mean, it's even a matter of sitting position. When you sit at a computer, you're sitting in a very aggressive, interactive way, and you're not ready to sit back like in a cinema and receive. So you might be ready to play a game over the internet, but you might not be ready to watch even a short film. And I think that's, I don't know if that will change. I'm not sure. It might not. So even if the internet becomes a part of the, quotes, delivery system of cinema, it might not be intermixed with people's use of computers per se. It might have to do with satellite systems delivering video directly to theaters for projection. Well, at the moment, there are some people interested in producing red cars. There are some problems. It's a story about motor car racing, Formula One racing in the 60s, in 1961, actually. And it's a script that I've written, an original script that I like very much and I have great affection for. I wrote it many years ago, and it seems to be a very difficult film to get made. So I hope I live long enough to make it. But at the moment, it's not exactly ready to go, that's for sure. Yes, I heard that myself. That was kind of a surprise. But you know, it happens to, I mean, The Shining was made into a television miniseries, even though there was, of course, the Stanley Kubrick film. The Dead Zone was made into a miniseries recently, even though I made a feature film of it. Scanners is different, of course, because I invented the scanners myself. And yes, it's strange to think that other people would take that particular concept and do something with it. But on the other hand, there have been sequels made to Scanners that I had nothing to do with, so it's an odd feeling. But in fact, the history of art shows that there's a complete constant interchange of Shakespeare used many other artists and legends and writings in his work and so on. So it's really just part of the artistic ebb and flow around the world. I think it is a little strange for me, but it's also, I think, not so unusual. Well, Stephan is a very good friend, and in fact, it's very interesting because we met. He's from Montreal, so he's Canadian, although he lives in San Francisco now. And we worked together many years ago. I think on Scanners was the first one, possibly. And for the first time, he did what we call straight makeup. That is to say, in Spider, he did the makeup for Ralph Fiennes. Even though it's not special effects makeup, it's sort of what we call straight makeup, normal makeup. And he's a really very brilliant artist, and we just have a long relationship that's very easy because we understand each other, we know where we've come from, and in a way it's the equivalent of those other artists like Howard Shore and so on. That we have a long history together, and I really value those relationships. It's a source of inspiration and comfort, you know, when you're making a film, because a film is always a very difficult thing to do. So the more friends you have, the more allies and it helps if they're brilliant as well, of course, because we all excite each other. Well, there's nothing that happens on the film set that I don't have to say yes to. And when it comes to things like focal length or where the camera is or where the camera moves, it's a collaboration. It's a discussion between me and Peter, and so I have to say it's collaborative. Whether he gets less freedom from other directors or more freedom, it's not something that I know about. I know that he really loves to work with me. We get along very well, but we're both very involved. I mean, it is a true collaboration. We decide these things together, you know. It's never a question of my saying, you must do this. If he hates it, then I have to think about why, and the reverse is true. So it's a true collaboration. Well, I never do storyboards. Every once in a while, when there's complex special effects, I do the special effects people want storyboards because for their own purposes. But for me, I don't. I need to work with the actual actors and the locations, and you know, it's a sculptural thing. I have to feel them and move them around, and then I decide how to shoot. So to me, storyboards are not very useful. Well, it depends on many things. I mean, I love editing. I think that editing is very much part of the essence of cinema. It's also a wonderful way to cover up mistakes that you've made. You know, many times you say, "Thank God for editing," and I think one of the mistakes that young directors make most is that they fall in love with the idea of doing something in one shot, and in fact, the audience never even notices. It's not a bravura. Wow, wonderful! He did it in one shot. If it doesn't work, who cares? You know. So I'm very practical that way. If there's a reason to keep everything in one shot, then I will do it. But Normally I find that you have so much flexibility in editing that I do a lot of coverage. I like to edit, and I like to be able to edit, and I'm limited only by time and budget, really. If I had more time, I'll do more coverage. If you are in complete control, and the films that I do, I have complete artistic freedom. I'm not worried that someone else will take this cover footage and edit it into something else. You can't really worry about that. You can't be paranoid. You have to assume that you will be using it and that you're doing it for yourself. So I do a lot of coverage.